As Donald Trump's unprecedented war on free speech earned him another major defeat in court, Trump is now throwing a public temper tantrum, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, it's a day that ends in Y, which means Donald Trump has suffered another setback, and he's not taking it very well. As Mediaite reports, Trump rages at Harvard in overnight social media blast. Trump stayed up late Saturday night to ratchet up his battle with Harvard University. In a post to Truth Social just prior to 1 a.m. Sunday, Trump took aim at the storied Ivy League institution, demanding the, quote, names and countries of all foreign-born students. So let's take a look at the Truth Social post. It says, why isn't Harvard saying that almost 31% of their students are from foreign lands, and yet those countries, some not at all friendly to the United States, pay nothing towards their students' education, nor do they ever intend to? Nobody told us that. We want to know who those foreign students are, a reasonable request since we give Harvard billions of dollars. But Harvard isn't exactly forthcoming. We want those names and countries. Harvard has $52 million. Use it and stop asking for federal government to continue to granting money to you. Okay, this comes on the heels of Trump suffering another major defeat, as reported by the New York Times. Judge blocks Trump effort to bar international students at Harvard. Harvard sued and asked for a restraining order less than 24 hours after the Trump administration said it would block current and future international students from attending the university. A federal judge halted on Friday the Trump administration's attempts to block international students from attending Harvard University, the nation's oldest university and one of its most prestigious. Harvard had sued the Trump administration earlier in the day, in less than 24 hours after the Department of Homeland Security moved to bar international students. Later Friday morning, at the university's request, the Boston judge, Allison Burroughs, issued a temporary restraining order against the federal edict, agreeing that Harvard had shown that its implementation would cause, quote, immediate and irreparable injury to the university. The administration action and Harvard's response signified a dramatic escalation of the battle between the administration and Harvard. The university's forceful and almost immediate response served as evidence that the stopping of flow of international students to Harvard, which draws some of the world's top scholars, would destabilize the school. In a letter to the Harvard community delivered Friday morning, Dr. Alan Garber, Harvard's president, wrote, quote, we condemn this unlawful and unwarranted action, adding that it, quote, imperils the futures of thousands of students and scholars across Harvard and serves as a warning to countless others at colleges and universities throughout the country who have come to America to pursue their education and fulfill their dreams. The lawsuit, which accused the Trump administration of a, quote, campaign of retribution against the university, followed an announcement on Thursday that Harvard's Student and Exchange Visitor Program certification had been revoked, halting the university's ability to enroll international students. The lawsuit was the second time in a matter of weeks the university has sued the federal government. In the new lawsuit, the university accused the Trump administration of exerting, quote, clear retaliation for Harvard exercising its First Amendment rights to control Harvard's governance, curriculum, and the ideology of its faculty and students. Quote, with a stroke of a pen, the government has sought to erase a quarter of Harvard's student body, international students who contribute significantly to the university and its mission, the lawsuit said. Quote, without its international students, Harvard is not Harvard. The administration said Harvard had not complied with a list of demands sent on April 16th that contained records of protest activity dating back 5 years, including videotapes of misconduct and records of disciplinary actions involving international students. Harvard's lawsuit also said the university had been working to comply with this April 16th request, along with a letter attacking the university for failure to condemn anti-Semitism. Despite the, quote, unprecedented nature and scope of the demands calling for information on each student visa holder, about 7,000 students across Harvard's 13 schools, within 10 business days, Harvard had submitted the required information on April 30th, the lawsuit said, and also complied with a follow-up request. Quote, yet on May 22nd, DHS deemed Harvard's response insufficient without explaining why or citing any regulation with which Harvard failed to comply, the lawsuit said. It references Donald Trump's posts on Truth Social, his social media site, as evidence of his vendetta against Harvard. So, there you have it. Okay, this is the ongoing battle. It's Trump's revenge, his attacks on First Amendment rights and free speech, and even the libertarian right-wing free speech organization, FIRE, has put some pretty good resources about this particular salvo, this particular front in Trump's free speech war, or rather war on free speech, to be more precise. FAQ, responding to common questions about the fight between Harvard and the Trump administration. So let's take a look. Again, they said on April 21st, Harvard University filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. That's where it says, in a matter of weeks, okay? So here are some of the Q&A. Harvard isn't entitled to federal funds. Why is Fire defending it? You're right. Harvard isn't entitled to federal funding. No institution is. But Harvard, just like you or Fire or any person or organization, is entitled to a federal government that follows the law. And just as the law gives us certain protections, it also says the government can't cancel funding on a whim like the administration did. Let's take a closer look. The vast majority of colleges and universities receive federal funds. These funds mostly consist of financial aid like Pell Grants and for scientific and medical research. Of the $9 billion reportedly under review by the Trump administration, the Harvard Crimson estimates over $6 billion comes in the form of funding for 5 regional hospitals associated with the university, along with $2.7 billion in research funding at the university. It goes on like this. And the deal has rules to protect colleges, the government, and the taxpayers who foot the bill from being negatively affected by arbitrary decision. Before the federal government can pull funds from an institution, it has to take a series of steps. In short, one way or another, the federal government is going to have to provide evidence and prove its case if it wants to pull out of the deal. These are a lot of steps, but they're important. They protect students by making sure colleges live up to their obligations, and they protect colleges by making sure they have an opportunity to contest the allegations, as well as a chance to make things right. These rules are important because they provide a safeguard against political bias, risk of error, and government overreach. And so, it goes on like this. Can the federal government revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status based on opinions expressed by the institution or its students or faculty? No. Threatening to strip a university of its tax-exempt status based on its expression or that of faculty, staff, or students sets a dangerous precedent. It also has an article saying that 7 free speech groups issue a call to oppose Trump's First Amendment violations. Why aren't there more? So, let's see here. This is a quote from Bruce Springsteen. Quote, "There's a very weird, strange, and dangerous shit going on out there right now. In America, they're persecuting people for using their right to free speech and voicing their dissent. This is happening now." Was the boss being partisan there? Donald Trump thought so. And they proceed to quote a big rant from Donald Trump. Just goes to show there are 2 sides, both of them partisan. The singer has his partisan views, and so does the suppressor. We just need to chill, get along, hear both sides. Ah, yes, a kumbaya embrace. Yuck. Do you remember those nonpartisan folks who were so outraged by what was going on in the cancel culture world of college campuses? How they lamented the way the censorial mindset was choking the First Amendment? Oh, those First Amendment champions were so incensed. And fair enough, things were wildly out of control, and those liberals responsible for supporting or allowing such censorship had to be called out. Again, fair enough. Of course, those who tolerated such censorship, dare I say liberals, are now livid by what's going on, rightfully so. But where are those guardians of free speech, dare I say conservatives now? When never a day goes by when the Trump administration does not abridge the First Amendment with wild abandon. It goes on like this to call out the hypocrisy of the Trump administration. I mean, the legal director of FIRE, again, a libertarian free speech organization, which has criticized Democrats, liberals, and progressives in the past, they have made it very clear, according to their legal director, the scale, scope, and severity of Trump's war on free speech is unprecedented. Donald Trump is objectively worse on free speech and is objectively more censorious than any Democratic administration ever. And anyone who tells you otherwise is a MAGA loser or a liar, one of the two. So there you have it. Donald Trump suffers at least a short-term defeat at the hands of a federal judge in his war of retribution against Harvard and his attack on free speech, and he's lashing out publicly on Twitter. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.